welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the podcast, I have a band called The Record Company. I had a chance to talk to Chris Vos, the lead singer of The Record Company, and we had a great freaking chat. It was actually pretty extended conversation, almost an hour long. But it was a lot of fun. I had a chance to talk to him. He was at his parents' ranch that he grew up on. It's a dairy farm actually in Wisconsin, and we just had such a great conversation. Really hit it off. So look forward to sharing that with you guys in just a little bit. I don't plug the socials enough, but if you can subscribe to the podcast, please, on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. You can watch it on YouTube, usually, as long as we do the video, the interviews on video. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, at Concert Pipeline, except for Facebook is facebook.com/Concert Pipeline Pod. So there's all that business out of the way. Give us some love where you can, okay? All right. I actually had the chance to go to not one, but two concerts this past weekend, which is I don't know. It's been eons since that's happened. It's been eons. Concerts have started to open up again, which is great. I love it. And I've been able to take the kids a couple times to Napa City Nights here in Napa, a local show downtown where they get localish bands to come and play, and you just hang out and have a picnic in the park. Sometimes we take our dog Basil, and he hangs out, and the kids run around and just be kids, and bring dinner and a beer or two, and hang out and listen to some good music, right? So while my daughter was at dance class, my son talked me into taking them to Napa City Nights for the last Napa City Nights of the season. I didn't know any of the artists that were playing or scheduled to play, I should say. But I said, okay, you know what, we'll do it. We'll pick up some burritos and take them to the park. The sky's a little bit gray. It's smoke lingering in the sky, but it's okay. I think it's okay. And if we need to, we'll wear our masks and, obviously definitely be safe around other people. And we'll go. And it was a lot of fun. Had a chance to actually see Matt Jaffe, who's been on the program a couple of times. And he filled in for a different artist that wasn't able to make it for whatever reason. I talked to him afterwards, and he found out the day before that he was going to be able to play Napa City Nights. And he put on a really great performance. Kids loved it. And then on Sunday at the Napa Riverside, Napa Oxbow Riverstage stage, whatever that's called, Brett Dennen came and played a day after Billy Idol, and I heard that Billy Idol's power went out. The power went out of the stage for like 15 minutes of Billy Idol's set, which is just comical. But Brett Dennen came and played a set, and so I really enjoyed that because it was a free show, which is awesome. And B, I hadn't had a chance to go to a show at the Napa Oxbow stage, so I get to the venue and I'm trying to find my way around. I mean, to the entrance, right? And I'm going all around the venue, and I even end up behind the venue while Brett Dennen's sound checking, which is the photo you see here. And if you're watching on YouTube. And no, that wasn't the entrance. So I go back around the other side. I end up having to talk to security. You have to go down beneath the venue, under the train tracks, apparently, to the backside before you can get in. And so I eventually found my way in and was one of the first, handful of people in the concert. And this was a great one because I was able to bike to it. It was just a couple miles away from home, so I didn't have to drive and worry about getting home late or anything. Also, an earlier show, which was great, and no opener, so I made it home by 7:30, which for an old man like me is pretty okay. I sat in the front row, his general admission, and until he came on the stage, and then went up to the stage. And here's a picture of the stage setup as well. So you can just kind of hang out and everything. But he put on a really good set. At one point, he referenced shows that he had done in Napa eons ago, and the crowd was chanting. Silos was the place that he had performed at. He didn't remember the name of it, but they, when he kind of described it, they all said it was Silos. I didn't know Silos was around that far back, but I remember seeing him. His talking about the old shows reminded me that I'd seen him live once, eons and eons ago, probably one of his early shows, and I didn't know who he was. They played at this place in the Mission. It was like when stand. It was a small little place. Like, I mean, maybe there were 10 people there, 20 tops, and I knew the opening band somehow. I don't remember how, but he played after, and I remember my roommate Hyro was digging his music, so I probably bought a CD or something. And so he told some interesting stories throughout. He showed appreciation for being able to play live music again, and talked about kind of getting to this dark place over the past year where he didn't know if live music would be back. When it looked like live music was coming back, he booked a bunch of shows, and like this Napa show is pretty early on in the tour, and a great opportunity because hey, again, a free show with Brett Dennen, who's a cool musician. So he opened with a song. We'll play one of his songs at the end of the podcast. Put some live music in this show as well. But he opened with "She's Mine" off his newest album. And then he played San Francisco, which obviously is about local town San Francisco, and in that song San Francisco, there's a lot of references to like the Haight, the Mission, all the different areas in San Francisco, and things that he's picked up from going to San Francisco. So it's a pretty cool song, and it was a really good set. And then where it got interesting, I guess I would say, is after his set, before his encore, I went to the back of the venue. I was walking to the back and ran into my ex-girlfriend there. And then at the same time I ran into my ex-girlfriend, he actually played "Just Like the Moon," which was the song of my first dance with my ex-wife at our wedding. So it was just this weird moment for me, but it's okay. It was fine. And as you can see, the place wasn't totally packed or anything along those lines, but there was a decent sized crowd, and more people behind there that were hanging out on the lawn and everything. If I were to guess, I'd probably guess like 500 people or so made it out to the show. But fun thing to do on a Sunday afternoon. So really enjoyed Brett Dennen, and like I said, I'll play a song at the end of the show from his set. All right, so let's get into the interview with our guest again, Chris Voss. Really freaking awesome dude. They're going to be playing at the Fillmore in November, so you get your tickets there. We'll talk about that later on in the podcast with Chris, and he had a great story to share about his last time playing at the Fillmore. Really freaking made my day, actually. And this is my interview with Chris Voss from the record company. Hey, can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, man. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm out on my parents' farm in Wisconsin. So I'm coming to you from the great state of Wisconsin, out here on my dad's family farm, and got my little tractor coffee mug. I'm ready to roll, dude.
Nice. I like it. Yeah. So is this the home where you grew up in? Because I know you grew up on the family farm, and I guess that's got to be the place.
This is it. This is this used to be my little like playroom when I was a kid, but now it's kind of turned into the second TV room. This used to be Grandma's room when she got a little older and was living over here, and It's a whole thing. This part of the house is, it was built in 1880. So, it's been around.
Yeah, yeah. What was that like for you? I mean, so I'll tell you, my first time really to Wisconsin was about 2 years ago, and I went to the Green Bay game against the Bears,
Oh,
and
yeah, sure.
and it was, first of all, incredible game, but it was like 7 degrees, and as a California guy, like I had nothing to compare it to. I must have been wearing 6 layers.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah, I went to a game years ago. It was the Giants and the Packers, and it was the second or third coldest NFL game in history. It was the NFC Championship game. Packers lost. It was so cold that if you spilled your drink, beer would freeze in a cup. If you spilled your drink, you literally could hear, like, I'll just be disgusting. If you spit, you could hear your spit freeze as it was going through the air before it would hit the ground. You know what I mean? Not that I, am the kind of person that does a lot of spitting, but it just was, it was one of those, it was a day, man. You had to bring like insulation, like solid, like what you put in the wall, not like fuzzy insulation, but like stuff you put behind your outside paneling to sit on the bleachers, or you would freeze to the bleacher, basically. So,
yeah,
that's what we call fun in Wisconsin.
that's the exciting times, right? It's like, hey, let's throw coffee in the air for good times and see what happens, right? Like,
it literally, you throw a hot drink in the air and it turns to just mist before it gets to, Colorado has like fun snow. They have some pretty serious snows too, but like there's fun snow, and then there's snow that just after a while just robs you of your very being, like where you're just like, this is just a nightmare.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine growing up in that, or living in that. And I pay dearly for living in California, and I'm okay with it, right? Like, because we have one season, and well, right now it's turning into fire season, and they're threatening power shutoffs and everything, even today for where I live. But I'll take that over.
I live in California too, so it's like I have a December birthday, and the first time that I was in California, my birthday is on December 14th, and I was outside. I didn't know anybody yet, and like my buddy took me out he's like, I'll take you out. The only guy I knew in town. He's like, I'll take you out for a drink. And we were outside drinking a beer, and I was in my t-shirt, and I must have had that, like, that whimsical look in my eye, and he goes, are you all right? What's going on? I said, I'm never going to be in the snow again if I can help it. I'm like, I've never every day of my life, every birthday I've ever had has been cold. I'm like, this is beautiful, man. So
what you get a taste for it, you don't leave.
Yeah. I mean, nobody's fooling anybody. I mean, you can live here and love it. And I loved it here, but everybody likes December sunshine. I'm going to tell you, there's a reason people get on planes and go to Hawaii during that time.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned Colorado. I did want to ask you also, you had a chance to play Red Rocks a couple years back. Like, what was that experience like for you? Because that was also something I talked to a lot of bands, and Red Rocks kept coming up as being this like magical place. So a couple years back, I also went to Red Rocks for the first time, and it was magical. Tell me about what the experience was like for you.
Well, I had this goofy little dream that I formed in this house when I was 14. I made a promise to myself. I was like, just in the room right above me was my old bedroom where I started playing guitar, and I made a promise to myself that I was like, I'm not going to go. This is like one of those things you say when you're 14, and you probably shouldn't stick to it because, you're 14. It's not like any time to like hold to any decisions. You're going to get wiser, hopefully, as you go forward. But I was like, I'm not going anywhere until my guitar takes me there. Right. So I didn't go very far for a long time. Right.
Yeah.
And then eventually that cracked, and then I got all over the place. But one of the places that I had said I promised myself, I was like, I won't go to Red Rocks until I play it. And it hurt. I mean, I wanted to go so bad. So like when we played it, my first entry into Red Rocks was to go through the back door onto the stage from the backstage. And that was a hell of a way to see it, man. That was a hell of a way to see it, you know? So my impression of it was everything you've probably heard, only my own spin on it. It's, you know, the whoever figured that out back in, like, I think it was like 1919 or 20, they figured out, some guy was hiking up there and realized, oh, this is perfect natural amphitheater. It's like the rocks jet out and they hold the sound, and it just is a natural just push. So the sound doesn't like just sprawl out. It pushes up the hill, and it holds inside, and the lights are bouncing off the rocks. And it's a weird feeling playing it too, because it's so peaceful. You feel like you're playing like a family picnic with like 10,000 people there. It's just not, because it's all straight uphill and you're at the bottom of it. So it's like, it's a really, even though compared to other amphitheaters, it's just a very intimate feeling, because you're all just in this little, being held together by these giant rock faces. And then there's the one behind the stage, of course, too. So the hype is there for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
The only thing you got to know when you're in Colorado, if you're a sea-level band, is don't make the mistake of, remember, one beer is two beers. You know, the air is thinner, so you will get drunk faster. Don't go running up the hill. You know, oh wow, I'm at Red Rocks. Run up the hill, downhill, up the hill, down. You just conserve your energy, drink Gatorade and water, and you'll be fine.
Save it. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, you had the opportunity to tour Europe before your first album even came out, right? Like, how did that come about? What was that experience like for you?
We the first album, that there are a couple of out of print EPs that we had put out, and they had gotten us a little bit of a reputation where we were doing enough that we were starting to get some gigs, and then we got signed. And as our album was waiting to be released, we got on a tour with Blackberry Smoke in Europe, and that was the first time. That's where my dream that launched up here finally came true, where I got to go to Europe for the first time with my guitar. So it was pretty amazing. The first night I was in Madrid, running around Madrid, you know, we had the night off, and I'm like, I just learned, I just decided, I've studied so much Europe stuff. I was just like, I'm just going to go to wherever the art museum is and then just walk around that area. I'm sure it'll be great. And that's what I did, man. I ended up like going to a little blues club, and that had been there forever, and eating in some outdoor marketplace where they were just like carving ham on and giving us glasses of wine. And just was awesome. So how we got it, it was just we got lucky enough to be picked by, you know, the representation of the group or the group itself, and we said yes, and we went. So and then we were out there for about 6 or 7 weeks, because right after we got done with that tour, we toured Poland, Slovakia, and the Czech Republic for another like 3 weeks, and that was a whole nother scene. That was something else.
How were the crowds there? Like, what was that like? I mean, it's kind of completely different.
It was awesome. You know, I mean, that was a really weird tour, because we were like, the Polish government put on like a cultural diversity thing where they would bring a band in a year, and like, you know, you basically, you know, play the whole country. So some nights you'd be in a city, a major city, and there'd be like, you know, an amphitheater crowd. And then another night you might be in like some, like basically what would be like just some club. Like I actually got to live my Michael J. Fox Back to the Future moment. You know, it's like we played the little center. It was like, you can only put 200 people in here. That basically everybody in this little farm town, that's where they went to you know, to have their family gatherings, their weddings, their whatever. And we played, and they would all sit, and then when we get done, they'd all stand up and go, and then they'd sit back down. And so we went and got off stage, and I said to the host, most of the people in this town, most people in Europe can speak English, you know, but in this town, there was actually a lot of people that just spoke Polish. And I said to the guy who was our host, I said, hey, you can tell, he's like, they would like you to play another song. And I said, you can tell them that the band realizes they're being respectful by sitting, but we'd really like it and would find it to be very fun if they all got up, you know, and if they feel like it, and dance around a little. So we came out and it was like, they just exploded out of their chairs. And now this was a crazy little group of people. Like you had like farmers and everything. So there's like 80-year-old guys. There's like, you know, 20-year-old girls. There's like just, it's the whole gamut. And I'll never forget this. This guy is burned in my mind. I love this man, wherever he is. He's in Poland somewhere. Has no idea I remember him or ever talk about him. But we were playing the encore, and it was time for the guitar solo, and it just jumped off the front of the stage. It wasn't like a little giant leap. It was like 2-3 feet up. And this guy was so into it. He got in front of me. He was playing air guitar, like locked eyes with me. He was like playing guitar, like just screaming. And I jumped back up on stage, and I was like, that might have been my favorite moment in the history of my life as far as music. It was just like this dude and I, it's like, I'm like, this is music, man. It brings people together. It's great. So it was a great experience, long story short.
Hey, that's cool, right?
It's not always, great experiences in music aren't always about the marquee moments in my experience. You know, where it's like, you know, Grammy nominated, people will talk about that, or his song goes to this part of the chart and they'll talk about that, and blah, blah, blah. Those are amazing, but there are sometimes those little interpersonal connections that are really the, like, the person that you talk to backstage that might have been at your show because they heard your song, and there was a gentleman, and this is going to take a slightly offside turn, but this gentleman came to our show in Arizona because he had cancer and he loved the band, and his daughter wrote, and message got to me, and we had him backstage and hugged him and the whole 9 yards, and he had the record company shirt on. And then a couple of months later, I got the email that he had passed, and they said that they had played our song at his memorial because that's what he wanted. And I was like, Jesus. I mean, I'm actually gonna tear up. I gotta watch it. But the connection, the beauty of that's why I love music. It goes across barriers, backgrounds. It goes across language. It goes across everything. And for me, I love connecting with people. So like sometimes, like when you're in a band, you can't go talk to people. Sometimes, you know, I used to say, I'm going to go and talk to everybody in the crowd. And then there comes a point where you realize you can't do that anymore. And because you just aren't going to be able to perform the next thing, you won't be able to talk. Yeah. That, though, to me is the best part, man. Like, is getting to talk to people and getting to connect with people. And I don't know. I went on a tangent, but that's
no.
So you better watch out. Better watch out. I go there.
Hey, we're making a connection here, right? And you know what you say just resonates with me, because I'm like, you know, and I was trying to think where I just heard it, but I just read a leadership book, and like a bunch of different leaders are in it, and Oprah's in it, and she's talked about how for the first 10 years of her career, she would, you know, stay after, or maybe it was before her show or whatever, and she would go and sign every autograph and talk to every person and everything, to the point where that just wasn't sustainable anymore, and she wouldn't have any time outside of herself. But that was what it was about, and it's so great to hear that, because it's great to get nominated for Grammy, and maybe, you know, obviously I hope one day you're able to win it, but to be able to build those connections and have those moments that are memorable and stick with you, and know that your music had that impact on, you know, one person or 100 people in different ways, right? I mean, I'm sure it's what helps you keep on doing it, right?
Well, anybody, yes. To answer your question, yes, it is one of the reasons. And there's the call, you know, there is the animalistic calling from inside your heart that can't be quieted by anything but playing. That's the other reason you do it. You know, but yeah, man. I mean, if it was just about that, though, you wouldn't leave. I would have never left this little farmhouse. I could have done it all here, you know. But there's something about the giving and receiving and that mixture that creates the soul. you know, of two people, three people, whatever, having an experience together. Why do you go with your best friends to a concert? You go so you can have a moment with music together to share the story of that together, because you know it brings you close, you know. So it's like, it's not just, oh, we went to X concert. It's not, it's about deeper than that. And I've had a lot of time in the last year to think about that and how special that is. And if there haven't been a lot of things about this last year that I would say were very good, but some of the goodness that was very good was to refocus on what really matters the most, you know, being together, being kind to each other, being remembering that music is a gift, remembering that people are a gift, remember that being with people is not a given but a gift, you know, and that we should treat it as such. And you know, I don't give a shit if that's rock and roll or not. I don't fucking care. I want to connect with people. And you know, I hear a lot of people will talk about like the rock mystique. Like, fuck mystique, man.
Yeah.
There's no time for that. You know, let's be together. Let's be people together and enjoy music and enjoy our lives, because I think we all just got a little window into what can happen when what you think will never go away does. And we all learn that different times in life. It can be merciless that way, and it's like, you're in a good stretch, ride it. Take it in, you know. Don't be thinking about tomorrow, today, you know. Be thinking about today. Be thinking about right now, you know, and maybe tomorrow will be a little better.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, I mean, we talk where we've been in the past year and a half, and you know, and as we're going through this thing, I mean, I've had this unique opportunity to talk to bands from around the world. This used to just be, okay, interviewing bands that come through the Bay Area, you know, at their shows, but you know, through Zoom and everything, we've had the ability to talk to people all around the world, and it hasn't slowed down. And I get to hear their stories and build these connections, like you're saying, right?
That's wonderful.
That it wouldn't be able to otherwise. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm looking at this COVID thing. It's like, okay, it sucks in so many ways, and it's horrible, and it's separated us in certain ways, but it's this thing that, you know, that we're experiencing together, and it's impacted everybody in some way, right? And being able to hear and listen and appreciate where other people are coming from
there's an opportunity. No question. I'm sorry, did I just interrupt you?
Nope.
Okay.
It's yours.
There's an opportunity for empathy,
and
there's an opportunity for kindness, and you know, no matter how you have it, there's always someone that's got it tougher, you know. And I think that we're not just pixelated objects on screens. We're not just little profile pictures. And you know, I think we're learning right now how to behave in a respectful way. We're all learning like how to integrate this new technology and everything. Like, you even think about Zoom. Like, I would have been totally freaked out to do something this way before COVID, but now it's a complete normal thing. But you're a human being, and when I see you and we're talking, you're a person. Now, if we're having some banter online, for some odd reason, there's some that disassociate the humanness and just start whiplashing each other. And I just think I think that's just something we got to get over, and we got to get past it, and we got to come together now. And one thing I like to remember, this farm taught me, and my mom, who's, I can hear her going through the other room. She's going, my dad and my mom are like walking around. I can hear my mother being like, he's doing an interview in there. You know, it's like I'm back in high school, you know, it's like, oh, he's doing an interview in there. Shh, we're going to be, you know, but they taught me that just don't act like perfect. I am not perfect. I fuck up all the time.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm sorry sometimes. And I have to listen sometimes. And I have to know that. And I'm not going to talk to you like I know everything, you know, and like I'm infallible. And I think that because I'm a fucking disaster some days. And some days I do some really great shit. Some days I couldn't do something right. If the harder I try, the worse it goes. And we're all like that. And I just, my hope is that as we all come out of this, and hopefully we come out of this because there are extra challenges now we're all facing again, we remember that, we get back to being the way we should be to each other, or not even get back to it, maybe start, maybe for the first time ever, like break down some of these things that are dividing everybody, and be together for real, I don't know, I'm going off the music again, but what can I say, man? I'm out on
good.
the
It's just
farm,
it's a conversation.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the music too, and of course I want to talk about the new album. But first, I mean, as we're talking about relationships and everything, and kind of coming together, tell me about how your relationship has developed with Alex and Mark over the past decade that you guys have been making music together.
Well, it started out just as a great friendship. I met these guys, and everything in my life that I've ever gotten that's been worth anything has always said no to me first, which is a blessing. Meaning, my wife, when I met her, I asked her out. She's like, "Sorry, I'm not really that interested in dating a musician right now," and I can't blame her, but it's, but now she's my wife, and it's one of the best things ever. And music has been, growing up on a farm in the middle of Wisconsin, it was a long way from my dream when I first started plucking away up here in this little room, and Alex and Mark, when I met them, I knew immediately that I connected to them on music, but they had just been in a band together forever, and they just kind of were done. They were like, "Man, I can't do this anymore." So I hung in there with them, became buddies. We listened to records, and eventually, about a year into it, we started playing music together, and it immediately clicked. And our friendship has been a beautiful one. It's been we've helped each other's dreams come true in a lot of ways. We have a lot more we want to do, but we also have found, we've helped each other past our own flaws through sometimes even disagreement. All those relationships take patience and kicking your ego out the door, and letting people shine, and loving them. And one thing we got in this band for each other is a lot of love, and with love comes growth, forgiveness, and a collective idea to achieve the best music we can in any given second, and to continue to press to try and find new areas, which is why our new album is like, I'm very excited about it, because instead of going back and making the same album over and over and over, we're all curious enough to want to continue to learn and press and find and seek and be excited. And right now we're as close as we were on the first day, but we know each other a whole hell of a lot better. And that's a hard thing to do, when you get to know each other's not just exciting stuff when the honeymoon's over, and you've got to like each other and love each other through some hard times, some good times, some disagreements, some happy times, some great, all comes together. Being in a band is just like when you realize you're with the band, you're going to stick with a band for a long time. It is truly like being in a family, more than even like they'll say it's like a marriage. I think it's almost like a family. And I can say that because I grew up on this farm, and you work with your family. So I know what that feels like. When I work with these guys, I feel like I'm working with family. So it's awesome. I love those guys. We rescued each other from the death of our dreams, and made something that none of us ever thought we would really do, I think, happen, which is to play full time, So very grateful for those guys, and for experiences like this. So there you go. I don't know if that got any answer to the question, but
it sure did. Yeah, family, right? It summed up as family. So go tell me about Play Loud is a new album. Comes out October 8th, and you worked with Dave Sardia to make it, right? So so tell me about what he brought to the album, and what you went in with, how it came about, really, what you were looking to pull out for this album.
Well, there's a lot that could be said on all of those fronts. For what Dave, what we wanted to do going into the record is Alex had produced the first two records, and who's our bass player, and we were like, he came forward right away, and he's like, I don't want to do it that way again, I was happy to hear, because I was kind of interested in like also trying a different way. So it was like, okay, cool, we're on the same page there. We were writing as we had written, but then we had the person who manages the band, Ken and Nikki, and these people that help us. They had a conversation with us about collaborating with some other people. Like we had some demos together that we really felt were getting strong, but they were about as far as we could take them. So it was really cool. We got to work with an artist named Shun, who she came in, and that was really something else to have her perspective. And she was such a gifted lyricist, and she just had such heart and guts and soul that like she's brought in a whole different energy, and it was refreshing. And Dave Sardi, he's made 200 records. So, you know, and he's made records with like LCD Sound System, Oasis, you know, and on and on and on. So like, this is the first producer any of us had ever worked with. And like going into his little magical land where anything's possible was really quite a learning experience. You know, you go in there thinking you know a thing or two, and then you realize it's like, wow, there's no end to what I could still learn about this process. And he kind of reinforced that the whole of an album, he won't even begin to think about making it unless he thinks you got the songs. And we gave him our demos, which, you know, and we did some writing with him, and we kind of started piling it all together. COVID hit. So we were thinking, okay, now we got all this extra time. So instead of being like, oh, bummer, we just were like, well, let's just keep chipping away at these things, man. Let's make them better. You know, we've got the time. So you get the opportunity to be that 14-year-old kid that was sitting at the edge of my bed, but I've gone through all of my life now. So I have the responsibilities now of a 14-year-old kid, but I've got my entire life experience at my back, plus everybody else in the band, plus him, plus any collaborator. And all of a sudden you're making stuff that's definitely different than you've ever done before. And different is good. Different is exciting. You know, in the end, if you know who you are and where you want to go, if you're making something to please somebody else, it's like, I'm trying to fulfill this. Oh, if you're thinking about like where it's going to go, where you'd like it to go, you're divorced from the art already. Like if you're just solely thinking like, does this flip the switch or not? Or even better, the switch gets flipped and you just go, the switch just got flipped. That's the best. When it's like you're struggling. And then before you know it, you're like, you've been excited for a handful of minutes writing this song. And then you realize, oh, fuck, I'm in the tube. This is great. You know, and that's what Dave brought. Dave brought a wealth of knowledge about gear, songwriting. He brought ideas to the table. He pushed me as a singer past my boundaries. He made me come out of my shell. Like an interview like we're doing right now, I probably wouldn't have been able to do this kind of an interview this open in 2-3 years ago, because I was a little shy about it, you know. And now I've just it's just kind of gone now, because it's like between working with him through COVID and then just experienced COVID, I just kind of came out of it, was like, if we get to do this again, I just want to lay it all on the line, you know. And I want our music to always come off that we're here to have fun. We're here to do stuff, but there is a message here too, if you care to hear it, and know that I'm grateful to any listener who gives us a minute of their time to be considered in their life, because that's the greatest gift a listener gives every artist, is when a new listener says, you know what, I've been hearing about these people, I'm going to just give them a listen. That is the gift right there. And where it goes from there, it can go anywhere. It could be as over in a second, or you could have a person that's with you for the rest of your, you know, time playing. And I love all that, you know. I love it all, man. The good and bad, you know. It's just, there's no other way I'd rather spend my life than doing this shit, you know.
And on How High, you worked with Kevin Griffin from Better Than Ezra, and Sam
guy.
Hollander. I mean, I think Kevin was like my first or second band interview like 20 years ago or something like that. I've been doing this a long time, but
that's okay. I've been doing this a long time.
We know, right? We got a thing. So tell me about working with Kevin and Sam, you know, and how that came about. What was that dynamic about like for you? Because you hit on a little bit earlier in terms of collaboration, and you guys don't have a history of kind of collaborating. You've done your thing and it's worked, but you're opening yourself up to some vulnerability there, bringing in others.
Well, they bring their greatness into the room. You know, they bring their lives into the room and their perspective and their ideas. And like, we walked in and, you know, I knew Kevin's work for years, and I knew Sam's name and I knew of his work, but you know, you never know how something's going to go. We're looking forward to meeting these guys. We walk in the room, they're just super sweet, you know, and they're two like really different kinds of guys. Like Dave Sardi is like a jet engine. He's either sitting on the tarmac waiting to go 600 miles an hour, or he's going 600 miles an hour. That's how Dave works. He's just, if he's with you, bam, like 1,000%, and you're going. Or he's doing something else and you're doing something else. Kevin and Sam were the same way. And it's quality that like I kind of noticed with people who are really good at what they do, that when they're doing it, they're not thinking about anything else. They're not thinking about what they want for lunch. They're not thinking about whether or not they're going to do something in their yard later, or the problems they're having at home. In the writing the song, you realize that these people are there to write a freaking song with you. And we walked in and Sam just kind of Kevin had some chords, and they weren't the chords that I think ended up on the song, or maybe they were. I think it was just a little keyboard thing. And immediately, you know, you start hearing it and it's like a keyboard part and it's not you singing. And you're like, instead of going into it with like, that's not us, you go like, that's good. Could it be us? Could we turn this into something so you just dive in. And the cool thing with those guys was they have no ego about it, which is a great way that teaches you as a writer that the best way to get ideas around is to encourage great ideas and not embarrass each other when you throw out something that might not be the right idea at that moment, because that still could lead to something else. Don't discourage. Don't go, oh, that's stupid. Don't do stuff like that. That's just bringing something into the room that doesn't need to be there. It's just like, well, you know, maybe that's not it, but maybe you're onto something. Just encouragement and kindness. And at the end of the day, we had a song. You know, we had the melodies and the title of the song and the chorus melody and like kind of the verse was there. And then we just refined it from there. When we took it to Sardi, he had some moves with it. And then Alex wrote the bass line for it. And that really changed the song for How High, you know, and it's one of my favorite songs on the record. It was a weird feeling because we walked out that night and I had only ever heard about stuff like this. I'd never been a part of it. And it's, you know, the song just came out, so I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it just, you walked out of there and you felt like something had just come into your life that day. And we all left and everybody was smiling, hugs all around. You know, this is before COVID. That's how long ago we wrote the song. It was like the beginning of 2020. Wow. And we were just like, oh man, we got to keep working with other people. This is a great thing. So we only worked with them that one day. And that day gave us a song that I'm expecting I'll be playing for a long time. So it was a great experience. And Kevin is a sweet, sweet, sweet guy. And man, does he have a lot of heart and soul. And Sam is just no BS. You can tell his brain is working 1,000,000 miles an hour, and he's a sweet, sweet, sweet guy. But they are very yin and yang. They balance each other really great. And then you add us in there. It was a really cool feeling. We got so much done so fast, you know, and that was great. So, it was an awesome experience.
Yeah. So I got the chance to listen to the album, and I really freaking like it. And
thank you.
And as I'm listening to it, like Get Up and Dance, that's one that stuck out to me. And I wanted to ask you, you brought cowbell into that one, right? Like where did the decision to do that come from?
I think it just kind of revealed itself, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that was actually the beat on that song. That was what, when we met Dave Sardi, we walked into his studio and I thought he was working on a Band of Horses record. I think he was at the time. And it just didn't sound like a Band of Horses beat. You know, I'm a Band of Horses fan. I've loved that band since the first record. So I'm like, Band of Horses going in a new direction or something, you know? And I turned to Alex and I go, man, I don't know what, because we're in this little like collect room he's got where it's kind of the think tank, and then it's in a house. We did the whole thing in his house, and then he's got the mixing room to the right of that, and we're sitting in like kind of a little think tank room, and there's like a live room behind us, and then upstairs and the whole thing. He's in a mixing room, just like he pops out. He's like, "Hey guys, I'll be there in 1 second." Cool. So we're just sitting there, and I turn to Alex, and I'm just like kind of under my breath because we still haven't met Dave yet. I'm like, damn. I'm like, I don't know what he's working on in there, but he's killing it for somebody. I wish that was our shit.
Yeah.
And then he pulls us into the room, and he's like, I just got this drum beat I just kind of was coming up with today. And he's like, hey, it's kind of cool. We can maybe write a song around this. What do you think, guys? And we were like, whoa, what? I was like, I've never walked into a room and had a guy go, or a girl or anybody, any human just go, hey, I'm already off the starting line without you, and you like it already, and it's like, we just looked at each other and we were like, yeah. And we started working on the song. So we started writing that song that day. We went home with the demo, and it kind of hashed that out over time. Shun came in. She helped us on some of the lyrical angles. It was really awesome to have her on that song, because that song has kind of like it's about getting together, and like kind of, it's got a little bit of it's a beckoning, it's beckoning somebody to you. And it was awesome to have Shun there, because her perspective on that was like so invaluable to like, she just was a badass. And like her perspective, we would have not been able as three dudes sitting in a room come up with some of the stuff that she was going, how about if you said it this way? It was like, oh shit, that's way cooler. It's like, yeah. All right. And you've got her there, so you're writing with a girl, so you're like, she has a whole different life experience, and it was so awesome. We ended up, after that song, we worked on her with her on like 5 other songs. We just kept calling her, being like, hey, you got the afternoon off, we got this song, we don't know what to freaking do with these lyrics, you want to come over? And it might be like she helps you write 3 words, or it might be you take the whole melody, and all she thinks about all day is lyrics. That's all she thinks about. And it's like, it just brings her greatness and her life experience brings something to it. So, and Dave Sardi, that's how we ended up working on that song, was because he came up with that drum beat. We took it, we worked with it. And that song was born sideways. I mean, that was tough. Yeah. The only thing easy about writing that song was the first drum beat, which had nothing to do with us. Everything else was like, we just kept pushing and pushing and pushing to try and find the story, and that was fun too. When it works, it's fun in the end, when you're like beating your head against the wall and it just works. Not all of them were like How High, where it's just like snap,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It came together really well.
It came together, man. Yeah, it did.
Yeah. So I want to be mindful of your time. So just a couple more questions.
You're fine.
I appreciate it. Well, tell me about performing on Conan. What was that experience like for you? Big Conan fan. So.
It was awesome. He's tall. Really.
Yeah.
He had Snoop Dogg on that day.
Really?
So awesome. That was cool. We didn't get to meet him, but like I met Jimmy Vivino and like became buddies with Jimmy. Like he liked my lap steel, and I still am in touch with Jimmy. That's how open it was. And Conan come over after with Andy and like was talking to me about my guitar, and we got to have it was just up the road from where we live, so like we got to drive home, and with our friends and our girlfriends like sit there, and my wife like sit there and watch the performance later that night. It was really nerve-wracking because I thought we had done a good job, and we kind of watched the mix, but it's like it was my first time on TV, so I was really nervous, and I wanted to be on Conan since I was a child, so I was like, yeah. Can't believe we're on, and then when we saw it, we were like, oh, hey, all right, it worked, we did okay, it was like, it was really an awesome one, man, and he was super sweet. I can say that about all of the late night people we've had before. Like when we met, Kimmel was sweet as pie, Colbert was sweet as pie. It just, they were just good people. They don't have to talk to you. John Baptiste like came up to the dressing room and talk to us afterwards. Like, you know, it's cool to get to meet people like that and have them be sweet to you. Is just like, it just reminds you of, like, it just makes you happy to know that, like, people are successful and they're good people, you know.
Yeah, don't lose sight of what's important. So looking out for people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned the lap steel. How did you latch on to the lap steel? That's not a, you know, a common instrument for rockish bands, right? So like,
No,
where'd you pick that up?
accident in this
Yeah.
house. In this house upstairs, I was listening to Muddy Waters' Hard Again. I was like, when I first started playing guitar, I like listening to like nothing but classic rock, like Metallica, and I got in my whole metal phase. And then I liked the blues, like, you know, or what I thought, you know, I didn't know anything. There was no internet here. We had MTV, but that's not like teaching you, you know, about the deep roots of things. You had to find that yourself. You had to be like, okay, I like this band. Who did they listen to? And you had to do the lineage thing. And I was lucky enough. The high school I went to school in Burlington High had a radio station, a high school radio station. It was an alternative station modeled after WXRT in Chicago. And so we were playing we had just huge library. So we would just, as buddies, we'd all go up there and just pull CDs and play them on Friday. We had the keys to the place. The teacher probably would have, you know, probably would have freaked if, you know, we'd just sneak in there and listen to records all night long. And how I learned how to play lap steel was I accidentally I heard the name Muddy Waters and I knew he was from Chicago. And I asked my mom, I said, hey, Mom, when you're at the store, if you see anything with the name Muddy Waters on it, can you bring it home? And she did. She brought home a Muddy Waters Hard Again record, which was like one of his best things he ever did, which is, you know, his comeback record that he did with Johnny Winter in the 70s on a Blue Sky label. It's not even a chess recording. And I did the whole thing in one day. And I heard on a song called I Can't Be Satisfied, something that I didn't understand what it was. And it was a slide. And I wanted to learn how to play it. So I just laid my guitar on my lap and I started I got a slide and I had read in a guitar magazine, okay, you can play slide. And everybody I looked at was like playing it like, you know, Dwayne Allman style. And I was so new to guitar, I didn't know enough. I just put it on my lap and started playing it like that. And then I learned about open tunings and stuff, you know, listening to Black Crowes music and whatnot. I read an interview with Keith Richards too, where he was like, oh, I put it in G tuning. I was like, G tuning. And then when I did that, I was like, oh, now I can suddenly do things that sound like this. And I kind of figured out I Can't Be Satisfied, which is in G tuning. And I just kept playing it on my lap because every time I put it the right way up, I was like, I don't like this. And then I saw a guy named Ben Harper and I was like, oh crap. It's okay. You know, I can do this. It's not a bad idea to play like that. So I just kept doing it. And when I went to college, I went into Wade's guitar shop right outside of UW Milwaukee, which is where I went to school. And I walked through the door of this little vintage guitar shop, one room shop, not much bigger than this room. And there was propped up against the wall facing me was the lap steel I play right now. And I swear to God, I walked through the door and it looked at me. You know, I swear to God, it looked at me. I didn't look at me, but I saw something in this thing that I was like, what the hell is that? And I went up and I talked to Wade, who's now one of my best friends. I actually ended up working there for a while. And he goes, it's a lap steel, you know, it's from the 50s. This one's from 1954. And you put it on your lap and you play it. I'm like, oh, you put it on your lap and play it? Cool. I bought it for $200. And then I just started playing it in bands. And I never played it like Speedy West or like Buddy Emmons, you know, which is more pedal steel. But, you know, I never played it like the old Hank Williams style. I put it in G tuning, not C6, and I played rock and roll on it, you know, and tried to learn how to play Allman Brothers songs on it and shit. And that's how it happened. So when we started the band, I just was like, well, I love playing this. I said to the guys, I'm like, I love playing this thing. People don't know what the hell it is. I'm like, and they were like, oh, it sounds great, play it. So we were it just was something that came naturally that I just never gave it up, you know, and now it's part of what we do. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you feeling going into this tour? You've played a show or two now, but you got a big tour coming up.
Yeah,
It's taking you all over. How are you feeling going into that?
super stoked, man. First off, it's nice to see tickets getting sold. That's nice. Obviously this time where everybody's figuring out how to do concerts and how to do them, where we can keep everybody feeling right and safe and everything. We're going to go out and play, and follow all the guidelines and the whole 9 yards. We care about our audience, we care about each other, and we want to make sure everybody's safe and feels good. That being said, I'm pretty freaking stoked, because when we went into the record, we also threw out the book where it was like, I'm the guitar player traditionally. Well, Alex had written all these great guitar parts, our bass player, and like he ended up playing a lot of guitar on the record because his hand, like he grew up with Garcia, and like, that's the kind of stuff he liked. And if he was into the blues, he liked more like Cream, Derek and the Dominoes, big Led Zeppelin guy. And I grew up being like, Hendrix and like just heavier picking style, and I loved the Ramones, and I like you already admitted, I love Metallica, and like jam wise, I was more of a heavy-handed guy. I liked anybody that sounded like they were putting their shoulder into it. So his guitar playing is totally different. So we brought on for the tour, we brought on a guy that can play bass and guitar, and he's not like some studio cat. He's a dude, like a round town player, and he just melted right in with us when we had him in there. So he's in there, and then we got a guy out of Georgia named Wesley Flowers, who is just the sweetest, kindest, nicest person ever. He's so funny, and he's got the best hair in the band. He's just got finally got one guy in this band with long hair, and we all have beards, so we got that going for us as well. But it's going to be lush, it's big, and I'm like a 5-year-old kid. Like we played last weekend, and or I guess 2 weekends ago now, and man, it was fun, and it sounded bigger because we've always been a 3-piece, and it was like so cool to like not have to carry the whole melodic side of the band. You got bass, drums, and me. Now it's like bass, drums, me, keys, everybody can sing. It's like you hit a chorus and it's like there's 4 or 5 voices going on behind mine, or 4 voices going on behind mine. And sometimes it's just like, so it's like, I don't know, it's just like it feels really cool, and like kind of throw the ego out the door and just take some shots and like try and make a rock and roll show that's fun, but has a positive, it has a message of healing and bringing people together. I hope people walk out of our shows knowing that if you're there, you're welcome to be there, be a good human with the rest of us, and we're just going to rock out. We don't turn anybody away who's a kind soul at the door. Come on down and party with us. We always loved the Dead for that. It was like they just let anybody in. It's like, hey,
yeah,
they made their own thing happen. So that's kind of where we really look up to that. So that's something we're doing too.
Yeah,
in a way. We're not like the Dead, but like,
of course. Yeah. And being from the Bay Area, I have to ask you, you played the Fillmore in 2018, and you're going to be playing the Fillmore again for your show here. What was your memory of the Fillmore?
Well, that was a place that my favorite memory, was everything, but I'll put it this way. Growing up, hearing the stories about San Francisco, that whole scene, I already told you how big a Hendrix fan I am. And like,
yeah.
So what I did was, after we got done with our sound check, I walked to the back and I talked to our sound guy and I said, Band of Gypsies, side A, turn it up, turn it loud, and I'm going to go stand in the middle of the room and listen to it by myself. So myself, and then I went and I hollered up to the little dressing room, like, yeah, Band of Gypsies. I'm like, but turn on Band of Gypsies. And all of a sudden all the dudes come running down from the band, and we're all standing there listening to Hendrix, the beginning of Who Knows. Bill Graham does the infamous, Some Old Friends with a Brand New Name, a Band of Gypsies, and that Who Knows riff drops. We listen all aside A, And I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna say, I swear to God, I felt like I could see them up there, man. The hair on my arm is all standing up right now. It was unbelievable to just walk through that place and see those tour posters.
Oh my God, it's incredible.
Been there. It's just, you're eating your little salad in the backstage area, and you're like looking around. You're like, Tom Petty, 5 Nights, The Crows. And then you look further back. You're like, holy, it's, Air Jefferson Airplane and everything. It's just like, good God Almighty, I'm a huge fan of history. So whenever we get to play a venue that has history like that, I mean, good God, so it was awesome. But Hendrik, I'd like to say it was my own show, but it was actually getting to hear my favorite live record of all time get played through the PA at the Fillmore, and hear Bill Graham introduce Jimi Hendrix to the Fillmore. Many years after.
That's so incredible that you did that. Like, it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, it was premeditated, partner. I was like, I walked in there. I didn't tell anybody I was going to do it. I'm just like, I got to hear what it sounds like. The only other time with that album I ever had even close to that is I had a buddy in college whose dad was actually in Vietnam, and he took the tube amp that they used to run all the PA to blast everything through the speakers for the troops. And he had this in his apartment, and this thing looked like, a giant monster. And we played on vinyl, Band of Gypsies. And I literally it rattled my world forever, and so that was the second place though now, because listening to Band of Gypsies at the Fillmore during sound check, I was like, how am I supposed to play tonight? I've totally psyched myself out, but this show was magic, man. San Francisco's great. It's just a beautiful place to play. It's an honor every time, man. I can't wait to be back there. I'm like pins and needles,
Yeah.
So.
Well, I hope to see you at the Fillmore show. And it'd be great to experience your band live. I've never seen you guys live, so
come on down, Steve.
No better place to
my
do
guest. I will put you on the list. And if you want to extend, I'm going to say this, and we'll find a way to pull it off. But if you want to put 2 tickets out there for one of your listeners in the San Francisco area, get to our people, and we'll get them in. If you want a couple passes to give away.
Hey, well, appreciate that. Yeah. And I'll come out to the show then. I'll be there. So but I really appreciate the time. I mean, your stories are freaking amazing, and
thanks,
it's great to hear. It's great to hear you're doing so well, and just the positive energy that you have.
Oh, thanks, man.
As we move forward through this.
It's really you're catching me at a magic moment right here, because I was just thinking today, and I know I was just joking with someone else that I'm the king of the Wisconsin goodbye, which means it takes 3 hours, and I'm never the one that initiates it. I'm actually probably one of the rare interviews where it consistently is the host going, all right, dude, see you later. I'm like, and one other thing, I'm like that kind of guy. So just if you ever meet me in person, anybody out there, you better be ready to talk for a while. But I was thinking today, and I'll close with this, of the surrealness for me to be able to sit in this room here that I used to play with my little tractors and trucks in, where my imagination took root. And then I believe all that stuff you do as a kid when playing pretend and all that is the energy that lives in you. You curate it as an artist. It turns into other things, but you never lose that. That childlike thing is actually not childlike. It's just that you naturally can connect to creative thought so easily as a child. And then you get older, your ego gets in the way. And then to be able to go upstairs and learn that guitar right up above where I'm pointing. And then all I wanted to ever do was talk about shit like this, and hope that someday that I would have enough music that I could talk about it. And so it hit me today, and you're my last person I'm talking to today. I just wanted to acknowledge that that's happening right now. And it's a pretty special moment for me because of where I'm sitting right now, and because this conversation was awesome. So thank you for having me on, and being a little part of my dream here in the house I grew up in. This is great.
Hey, It's an honor to be able to talk to you in the place where that creativity started. So
yeah, man, I'll never probably do another interview from this room in my life. You never can say never, but I'll never do a first one again. So I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, sounds good. Well, be safe and enjoy the tour, and and then we'll have some fun out here in San Francisco. Okay.
Yeah. All right. To all your listeners, be good, be safe, rock and roll, believe in rock and roll. There are some of us out here still working to keep it alive. You work with us, we'll work with you, and be good to each other. We'll see you down the road.
Sounds good. Have a good one, okay, Chris? Bye. That was my interview with Chris Voss from the record company here on Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. I have a couple of stories about what's going on in the music world. Won't keep it too long, but we have to pay some respect to a couple of who left their mark on the music business and have left us this week. The Everly brothers, Don Everly being the biggest name. He's dead at 84. And if you don't know the Everly brothers by name, you definitely know them by their song. I'll play a couple seconds of the first. Of their biggest hit, All I Have to Do Is Dream. Dream, 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 you in my arms when I want you, and all your charms. So that's the Everly brothers. They and Kathy's Clown was another one of their big hits, Till I Kissed You. And so he's half of the Everly brothers, and it's a big loss. He died Saturday in his Nashville home at the age of 84. A rep for the singer confirmed his death to the Los Angeles Times. Cause of death was not immediately known. Don lived by what he felt in his heart, Everly's family said in a statement to the Times. Don expressed his appreciation for the ability to live his dreams with his soulmate and wife, Adela, and sharing the music that made him an Everly brother. And so he's got a long storied career, that his legacy will live on for sure. Another loss this week is UB40 founding member saxophonist Brian Travers, dead at 62. Now you know UB40 from their song Red Red Wine. Brian passed away yesterday evening with his family by his side after a long and heroic battle with cancer, the band wrote. And this was Sunday, August 22nd, and he was 62. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of our comrade, brother, founding UB40 member, and musical legend Brian David Travers. Brian passed away with his family by his side. Our thoughts are with Brian's wife, Leslie, his daughter, Lisa, and son, Jamie. We are all devastated by this news and ask that you respect the family's need for privacy at this time. And so if you remember, or seem like we talked about UB40 recently, we actually have. They splintered in 2008 when frontman Ali Campbell left the band, leading to the exodus of even more members. As a result, there were two warring factions using the same name, leading to legal issues. Frontman Duncan Campbell retired from music in June of this year. So recently we did talk about UB40 when that happened, and he was replaced by Kyoko musician Matt Doyle. The band was and is still active as of 2021, though Travers' last performance was in 2019 at the Arena Birmingham, according to The Guardian. So a loss there. All right. In Newfound Glory news, they've announced that the Pop Punk is Still Not Dead tour lineup change. They were originally planning on touring with Less Than Jake and had a huge tour plan. They're not canceling the tour, but they are swapping out Simple Plan. I'm not sure why, but it's going to actually be replaced with Less Than Jake instead of Simple Plan. So that's pretty exciting. other than Warped Tour, Newfound Glory, and Less Than Jake have not done a proper tour together since the infamous Honda Civic tour back in 2003. Oh my gosh, I remember that. That was eons ago. And I think we reported that on whatever show I was doing back then in 2003 as well. I think it was Concert Pipeline's television show, but I remember the Honda Civic tour. That was that got some pretty okay artists, at least at first. And they're excited that they were able to step in. Also, many cities, venues, and promoters are requiring proof of negative COVID-19 test result or full vaccination, as well as mask mandates in some areas to attend shows. Check your local venues' websites for any mandates. They're going to be playing here in the Bay Area, September 11th in Berkeley at the UC Theater, and it says that show is sold out. So apparently no getting tickets through the normal channels to that show, but I'm sure it'll be a great tour. All right, we'll end the music news with a story about Dave Grohl, as we most every week do. He talked on stage euphoria and COVID-19 anxiety, and he discusses excitement and lingering COVID-19 anxiety that has accompanied the Foo Fighters' return to the road in a new interview on NME. Since returning to the stage in June, the Foo Fighters have played a handful of concerts and festivals settled all over the country, often being the first band to reopen a venue, as they did with Madison Square Garden in New York City, or Albuquerque, New Mexico's theater. And Grohl said of the latter show, it was the first time they'd had a show there in 688 days. Woo! And you could feel it in the audience. You could hear it when they sang along. You could see it when they danced. It's been a town-to-town celebration of the return of live music everywhere we go, opening new venues, reopening venues that had shut down. And you could see that people have been starved of live performance, as have we. We hit the stage like we haven't hit the stage for 2 years. He went on to say how the Foo Fighters have been doing their best to keep both themselves and their fans safe, following whatever guidelines are in place from the federal level down to the state and local protocols. That's also led to some nerves, as one breakthrough case of COVID in the band or their crew could bring the Foo Fighters run to a halt. For 2.5 hours on stage, it feels amazing, Grohl said. It's the other hours of the day that pose a bit of a challenge because of all the new requirements and restrictions and guidelines. You have to be really careful out there. When you're traveling with a crew of 60 people from state to state and venue to venue, you try your best to stay within your band bubble because the wheels could fall off at any moment. You wake up every day and cross your fingers and hope that we make it to stage that day. He still said it was great relief to be on stage again. He said, we've circled back to a place where we started years ago. That energy still feels new. I don't think anyone at this point would have any complaints about touring like we did in '95, which was like 2.5 months on the road and then a week off. Everyone's just kind of fucking dying for it right now. And that's a reminder that Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters will be here in Napa next weekend for Napa's Bottle Rock. And I am really, really, really excited about that. And there's a chance might be interviewing a band at Bottle Rock, a band called Lawrence, which is cool. And we'll be able to bring some coverage from Lawrence and other Bottle Rock artists, through performances to the Concert Pipeline audience. All right, that is our show for today. Like I promised, I'm going to play the show out with a song from Brett Dennen's show at the Napa Riverside stage from last night's show. This is the song he opened with, a song called She's Mine. For all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. We'll catch you next time.
Wherever we should stay with aliens akimbo, silhouettes of statues up in the window. Call me to comment with a crooked crescendo, but I don't. Devotees dance among the pantomimes on the promenade. It's a tabernacle all alone, but I don't follow. She's mine. She's mine. She's mine. All mine. And she's mine. 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 to a porch in the dark when she was waiting right there for me. She knows that my hands are empty as I go past the mothers of envy, and I don't have to fumble in the dark for my keys. I believe she's mine. She's mine. She's mine. Oh, mine. Yeah, she's mine. 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 New bills scattered in the yard around the pulpit made of cards. Who waited for their leader's words, but his words didn't make much sense. His mouth is spat out a fist of daggers, his tongue is swirled in a southern swagger. And I looked at all the people gathered, but they were all in a trance. And she's mine. She's mine. She's mine. Oh, mine. Yeah, she's mine. I was stoned before the quarter canes, tossed my soul to the furnace flames, where all my heroes had been slain, exiled or put in prison. Cause they rose above the mess, cause their power posed as there, cause they spoke of something else when everybody else didn't. Music fills the space between the deities and the prophecies of our bodies, breath seamlessly, silent in the sand. She looks at me so fearlessly, and I take it all too seriously, but it all becomes so clear to me. It makes me understand that she's mine.